Hi, everyone. Very happy to have with all of us today here, Jasmin Paris. She's been like a fair running champion several times, Skyrunner World Champion, and she won a couple of years ago the overall of the spin race. That's a huge, long race in the UK in the snow in very hard conditions. And she's been like a very accomplished athlete for the last decade. But she, in the last years, I would say, especially, she's been step up a lot when it comes to activism on the environment, and not only being an activist, but taking action with her racing choice, with what she's doing. And I think we can all get a lot of not only inspiration, but good advices from Jasmine. So first of all, Jasmine, thanks for being here with us today, and welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be chatting with you, and thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, that we know you pretty well because you are like one of the runners that we follow, all the lovers of the sport, and you've been doing all these accomplishments in races. But what's been your journey towards environmentalism? It's something that you got in your education as a kid, or it has been like growing on you later on?
I think I think it's something that I was aware of all my life, certainly. So from kind of childhood, I remember sort of doing a project where I chose to write about the destruction of the rainforest when I was, I think, 8 years old or something. But I guess it's only really the last 5 years or something where it's sort of started to become sort of a increasingly big issue, kind of that I've been aware of, I guess. And to the extent that it started to really sort of change the decisions that I've been making in kind of everyday life. And just, I guess, as an example, it's sort of when I started racing more sort of in the last 10 years, 8 years ago or something, I thought that it would be fantastic to race all over the world. And just in that time since then, my kind of view on that has changed a lot. So now I would still love to do that, but I don't think it's kind of responsible anymore. So, to fly all over the world. So, so it's really the last few years where my kind of, I guess, awareness has increased in terms of the climate and what's happening to the planet.
Yeah, and where did it came from? Like, it's true that I think in the last years, like we have been hearing more on the news, or like on more specialist channels, like all these reports from the IPCC, or like all the environmentalist movement with more mainstream movements, or more like scientist movements. And what was the thing that it did the click for you to say, okay, that's something that it's serious, and that as an individual I should take action to?
I think in some ways it's a bit of a combination. So I obviously really love being in the mountains and in the kind of wild places, and like that love kind of makes you want to protect it. And I think that's something that I share with, I think, many runners. Most runners, I think, that love the trails will also, love them because they love being in those wild places. And so there's that. But then I'm a scientist, I'm a vet. I also kind of do some research, and just being a scientist, you can't ignore the facts. It's all around you. It's thrown at you from all angles. And, you just have to look at the photographs showing the glaciers melting, the difference in the last, 10 years to, you don't even have to be learned scientist. You just look at spot the difference pictures, and, it's obvious what's happening. I think it's a bit of a combination of all those things. And social media now is it's a big part of our lives, isn't it, as well? So I probably, naturally follow people that sort of are also concerned now about the climate change. So, and so I'm getting their kind of messages thrown at me as well. So I think all of those things kind of accumulates and builds together to make you increasingly aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned like that we are visiting all these nice places and glaciers and all this beautiful nature, and it's somehow like uh, contradictory in a way that we love traveling a lot. Like I think outdoor people in general, we love traveling, we love visiting places. But as you mentioned before, too, like all this traveling, it's a big part of the problem that we are facing today. And I know that this this year, for example, you decided that you were going to raise a 2 in France, and for that you were going to have a like uh, carbon free, almost like travel, like doing that. And what's your approach about like committing for like going to races, and how do you make to take a decision or like it's worth it to go to the race, or it's worth it to go there or not to go, like to you probably have a lot of opportunities to go to many races, but now like a few days ago also another British athlete, Andy Simons, like he was saying that he was declining his invitation to go to Thailand for being to participate in the trail running world championships because the carbon footprint of this travel. So how do you decide if that travel is worth it, and how do you find the best options to get there?
Yes, a great question. I guess, I mean, similar to Andy, I actually had the same sort of debate with Thailand. Well, this is way before, it wasn't like I even tried for selection, but that was definitely kind of an issue for me as well in terms of travel, because now the way I look at it is that before I'm selecting a race, I think about whether it's something that I really, really want to do, whether there's any other alternative option I could, that I could maybe race at home in the UK or get to without having to fly. And so this year, I think most people know that I did fly to the States. I flew to run Barkley, which is obviously a long haul flight, but there wasn't really any other way of me being able to get there. So the things that I'd think about is there any way of being able to get there? Is it something that you really want to do? And for me, it's kind of a unique race, and there's not really an alternative that's going to recreate that. I have family as well, so I saw my brother. So when I was out there, so I kind of combined it with a holiday to see my brother, who, I don't see very often. So, I would say if you're going to go, then make it into something really worthwhile and see something while you're there. And I guess it's very much not the ideal kind of solution, but if you are going, then offset it with a responsible, reliable, if you've looked it up, carbon offsetting scheme. So those would be kind of thoughts. But for me, I only kind of wanted to fly, minimize my flying. So this year I flew once, and then I'd already decided that any other racing I did, I wanted to do just being able to get there by land and sea. So to the UTMB, I took the train, which took quite a long time. I think it was about 18 hours in total from Edinburgh. So it did actually mean that either side of the UTMB, I had an extra day when I didn't see the children. And for me, that was actually the biggest sacrifice. It wasn't the travel time. It was the fact that one day either side, I would have been able to see them if I'd flown, both of those days, but they were already asleep, or still asleep when I left. So that was kind of the biggest sacrifice for me. But it was, I like traveling by train. You get to see out the window, you get to see lots of places as you go past. And that's kind of nice to travel through the landscape. But it's a time commitment. And to be honest, I realized I'll put it out there. I realized I'm in a really privileged position to be able to actually pay for the travel as well, because it's significantly more expensive to travel by the way I did it by train than it was to fly, even though I booked the train tickets a long time in advance. So and that's something else that that's something that we need to change on kind of government leader kind of level, and that's the sort of thing that we need collaborative kind of action as individuals to join together to sort of demand change in terms of subsidizing rail fare and taxing airfare and that sort of thing. So you could get me, I could go on and on, but I realize I'm lucky that I can actually make the decision to want to travel by train and be able to do that as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like the political responsibility or that, and unfortunately, I think the news like coming now from different parts of Europe, even like Scandinavia, that normally are pretty advanced on that. it's not very optimistic on that, but well, that's we have also like have the right and the power to vote to change these things. But going back to sport, and I think you were mentioning something that it was very important. That it's we take a lot of time for granted that we can go to these races, we can travel, we can go there, and you were mentioning like just because we can, we shouldn't. It's just like because we really want that, then we can take the decision. But yeah, it's just to travel because we have the opportunity. It's maybe not the best way to think about, but just like to see how important or how much value you put to this travel, knowing the negative impact that it have. And another decision that you took, I think early this year, and that it really impressed me and other colleagues, is that you've been like a sponsor athlete for many years. And I think that that early this year you decide to stop most of these contracts and to work mostly with the green runners. And why was that decision, and how is important with the environment?
Yeah, yeah. So I did do that, exactly that. I guess for me, I felt that as on kind of on an individual level, I guess I've never felt entirely comfortable about kind of being promoted on social media. I always find it a little bit uncomfortable. So I just feel like I'm lucky to be able to run, and I sort of feel like a normal person, and people probably make too much of me, even though I'm honored to be in that position. But I guess I've always sort of felt a little bit like that. And then I think if people are going to kind of celebrate me and so on, then let it be for something good that I believe in. Let it be, let me be doing something good by kind of spreading a message on social media, rather than supporting a company and selling products, because I've really never been kind of interested in that side of it at all. So that was, so I thought I might as well use my social media platform, if as uncomfortable as I sometimes am kind of tweeting and so on. I might as well use it to do something that I believe in, and potentially make some positive difference. So that's the first thing. Second thing is kind of just on an individual level, I didn't really feel comfortable with being sent lots of clothes and shoes, a new pair each kind of season, or several different types of shoes, when I was only really needed to use one pair of hill shoes and one pair of kind of trail shoes. And that's all I really needed. So I didn't need all the kind of surplus stuff. And I just found myself trying to give it to people that needed it. And I didn't need different colors each season and so on. So it's been really kind of liberating to be able to just, really cut down all the stuff, all the pairs of shoes, and get down to what I need, and then to start repairing it. So that's now my kind of aim, I want to sort of lead by example, I guess, so that people know that you don't have to look up to someone and see them, that they're wearing all the new stuff and think that that's what makes them good. Because I think what makes you good is training and then enjoying it and believing in yourself. So those are kind of the three things that I think actually make you good. And so it's, you really just need a pair of shoes, don't you, and a pair of shorts to go for a run. So those are the kind of decisions, things that sort of drove my decision in terms of the kind of whole sponsorship thing.
Yeah, it sounds very easy, but I think that's one of the probably one of the hardest decisions as athletes, like to really say, okay, it's a very easy path to follow. I would say, like, okay, you get paid, or you get free gear, and to take advantage of that, and to be conscious to say, okay, I need less gear. I only use like one pair of shoes, or like two pairs, or like I have one pair of shorts from 5 years ago that I still own, and not take advantage of that, and step down. And I think it's the same for traveling. It's like what's available to me versus what is responsible from myself. And I think that's it's very easy to theorize about, but it's very hard, I think, as an outlet to take it. And that I think all the community like really thanks you for these steps that you are making, that hopefully will inspire more other runners and even sponsor athletes to to talk with their sponsors to say, hey guys, maybe we don't need all that patch and we can go with much less. And with all this context, you were one of the founder athletes behind the Green Runners, and can you explain a bit more about this club or this association of the Green Runners?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's a sort of group of runners that are, I guess, a running community that's, I guess, seeking to make changes we call it for a fitter planet, or that benefit the planet. So the idea is really sort of to give runners a voice, a kind of group community to within which some sort of structure within which to try and make climate friendly, planet friendly kind of decisions, and particularly focused around the kind of 4 pillars, probably most relevant to us as athletes, which are the way we move, the way we kit up, and so what, our gear, the way we fuel ourselves, and then the way we speak out. And that's probably the most important one. So those are kind of the 4 pillars of the movement. But basically, if you can look it up online, it's thegreenrunners.com, and to join, I think it's a very small, it's a nominal membership fee. I think £2.50 or something, just pays to kind of cover the various costs and also to sort of for some kind of raising awareness at certain events and so on. But it's completely volunteer led, and you then get this badge, which sort of, it really is just, it's for you to sew onto your kit so that you can maybe recognise other green runners at events and sort of feel a sense of community. But the most important thing is that when you join up, the idea is not that you join and just sort of be able to tick off the kind of tick off the thing that you've done something good for the environment. The most important thing is that you have to make a pledge and try and do something positive along the lines of the 4 pillars. So to be honest, for me, it's not even that important that somebody actually becomes a member of the Green Runners. What's important is that they make some change along the lines of one of those pledges. So even if they might not openly, officially be a Green Runner, but that doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is that action is being taken and that the message is being spread. So I think the changes that we can make within the running community that are going to benefit the planet and ultimately benefit us all.
Yeah, and that's cool. I think community has a very important role to play in the next years, with, as you mentioned, just inspiring each other, and the belonging to a community probably makes it easier for one to make some choices and to get inspiration and to get to feel more right about the decisions that he's taking. And I was looking a bit in the website. I invite everyone to go there and to sign the pledge. And it's 4 pillars. They are very clear when, as you mentioned, talking with how you move. We have been talking about that, how you kit up. It's about all the gear we use, how you eat, that we know that it has a very important footprint when it comes to not only the carbon footprint, but all the other resources that it's taking, and how you speak up. And our goal with this podcast with the Athlete Climate Academy is to speak up and to inspire other runners for doing to think about what's our footprint when we go to run, to the mountains, to climb, to do our passions, and to try to do a bit better every day. And I think people following you, they can see not only how you speak up, but how you take actions. But what would you say to athletes that they are maybe following your path, yourself, 10 years ago when you started to win races and you had all these opportunities open up? What would you say to a younger athlete that is starting to be a professional? How can he or she become a good athlete, but being more conscious and more like friendly to the environment.
Yeah, I guess, obviously I feel, I've been very lucky to be able to, I think the main thing is probably the travel thing, to be able to see some of the world and travel around and experience those kind of exciting races. But I think, I guess if you had the opportunity, I would kind of try and block and go away for a period of time and say go to the Alps for a summer if you could kind of do that, and then race multiple races if you were there. I think that would be a way as a kind of younger athlete to kind of experience big races and exciting races without doing lots and lots of travel. I think the main, for those athletes kind of up and coming, I guess being aware of the massive sort of impact of social media and the following. I guess you're taking on a position of responsibility, and therefore you have that kind of platform with which to sort of influence other runners and sort of think of yourself as a role model, and think of how you would like to be seen as a role model. Because I think, actually, regardless if whether you're a kind of a super elite athlete or, anybody that's taking part in an event has a role to play. You might just message the event organizer to say, look, can you put your start time to accommodate a local, being able to get there by train, and can you put a minibus on to pick up the runners from the train station, take them to the start of the race, and immediately, a huge number of people can come by train and cut out all those cars. So for things like that, it just needs collective. It needs a number of people to let the event organizer know that they just need to change the start time of their race by an hour, for example. That's a really little thing, but that's something that anybody, just looking at what the situation is and thinking about it, you might be able to do that. Trees not teas, offering the option to plant a tree rather than a t-shirt at a race is another thing that event organisers might just not know about yet, or not sort of be aware of the demand for it, but they'll respond to the demand. So if multiple people ask for that, then eventually they'll change and offer that option. So it's things like that, and just talking to athletes around you. And some people might not be comfortable using social media, but even, it's just spreading the message between your club runners, maybe, letting other people there know about the green runners and about this kind of idea. So I think I've gone a little bit off the subject of what your original question was about kind of athletes coming up. I think the main thing would
Not
be...
really.
I don't want to kind of say you kind of have to limit how much you travel around the world. But I think in terms of the travel thing, yeah, I mentioned already going out for a block of races, but also just looking at challenges closer to home. So, for example, in the UK, we've got things like, for example, the Bob Graham, I think, has become like a real sort of that's a really competitive challenge in itself. And so there's definitely things that you might be able to do closer to home that will actually be a really exciting challenge. Because a lot of the reason we sort of want to test ourselves in races, don't we? But there's other ways of doing that as well, not necessarily always needing to travel a long way across the world to race. So yeah, that's another idea.
Yeah, no, and I love what you say about the organizers, that many times, and I think that's also for athletes, like, many times, like, we are kind of blaming each other because this race is not doing that, or this athlete is not doing that. But many times I think it don't comes because the athlete don't want to, or because the organizers don't want to, but because they don't know, or they haven't thought about it. And I think, as you mentioned, just to send an email to the race organizer, just to be chatting about that in the club, or when you are running with colleagues, and to present these solutions, it's an amazing way to influence, and in a very positive way, not with the blame, but with solutions. And I think personally, I think it's what we need the most, is to spread solutions. And for that, I think you are doing an incredible job.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm trying anyway. I feel like I'm learning all the time, but yeah, hopefully I'm making some difference.
That's for sure. So, we really appreciate our conversation here, and how you are inspiring a lot of athletes, including myself, not only with your running achievements that they are just crazy incredible, but with all the decisions and all the projects that you are taking on environmental activism. So thank you very much. Hope to cross pass in some races or in some projects in the future.
Great. Yeah. Thanks very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.